What's a second? Someone couldn't have just made a moving object like a ticking hand and a clock and said 60 ticks is 1 minute and 60 minutes is an hour and so on. So who decided what a second is? Well, before we divided time into seconds, we divided time into days and hours. Historians credit the Egyptians with being the first to divide the day into equal parts. While the counting system we're familiar with is base 10, you have 10 fingers after all, the ancient Egyptians had a base 12 system. They counted on their finger joints, using their thumb as a pointer. Cool, right? As a result, they divided the day into 12 parts and the night into 12 parts, which we know from seeing the sundials they left behind. The subdivision of each hour into 60 minutes and each minute into 60 seconds started with the Babylonians, who had a base 60 counting system. You weren't going to be counting to 60 using body parts, of course, but that system does have some mathematical advantages I don't have time to get into. Anyway, that definition of a second, a 60th of a 60th of a 24th of a day, or 186,400th of the average solar day, which is the time it takes the sun to come back to the same place in the sky, continued to be the standard measure of a second until the 20th century. See, the average solar day actually changes length, so this definition wasn't exact enough for science. So in 1900, they were like, okay, instead of making it a fraction of the average solar day, we'll make it a fraction of the specific solar day on January 1st, 1900. Well, that didn't really help things. You can't exactly go back and measure the length of that day. Still, that definition lasted until 1967, when the second got really specific. Scientists used their knowledge of the atom to define a second as, get ready, 9,192,631,770 periods of the radiation for a cesium-133 atom. Woof. That sounds way more complicated than counting to 60 on your body parts, I know. But scientists can make that measurement anywhere, anytime, regardless of the amount of daylight this time of year. And that's key. For ideal precision, a scientist has to be able to check their measurements in the lab, not against some abstract concept like how long the day was in 1900.